the interim director of CTE programs at the high school. We have Patrick McGinnis, which is a teacher at Port Angeles High School, and Nathan Rodol as well, a teacher at the high school. So I'm going to start the meeting today with just a quick update on where we're at as it relates to our plan and county numbers. So this, I put this in the chat the last couple of weeks, but this is our county's representation of the virus and the cases per 100,000 in our county. Again, if you don't have this saved, I encourage you to do so. It's a great resource. Outlines, you know, the total confirmed cases for our county, hospitalizations, current hospitalizations, deaths, etc. And so, but the important information for our schools are noted here. Rate of cases per 100,000 over the last 14 days. Our rate as of yesterday, and it hasn't been updated as of today, but as of yesterday was 20 per 100,000. And that means we've been below 75 per 100,000 for 17 consecutive days. And we've been below 25 now for 5 consecutive days. So that's really good news, because if you look at, can you get a thumbs up? Do you see the decision tree now? Okay, good. So this is the Department of Health's decision-making tree around in-person schooling for the state of Washington. And those cases per 100,000 are located here. So above 75, we've talked about this in the last, or during the last few weeks. Greater than that, the health department strongly recommends distance learning. When you're in the moderate range, 25 to 100, recommend distance learning as described above. In addition, consider expanding in-person learning for elementary students. And I'm going to get to our plan. That's exactly what we have moving forward. And then finally, in the low range, encourage full-time for elementary students, and looking at then distance learn, or excuse me, hybrid for secondary students. And so this really guides our plan, which is located on our website here. And this dial is an easy illustration. You know, as a community member, I can log on to our website and see where do we set. You know, the virus has been very unpredictable, and so, you know, we have created a dial, or a system that will dial up services and dial back services based on the virus and the unpredictability of the virus. But if you click on this page here, or on this resource here, you'll get to a number of resources that I encourage the community to utilize. We're working our very best to keep each of these updated, but you know, the entire reopening plan is located here. You have CView, which is our ALE program. You have learning resources, Wi-Fi locations, you know, care and well-being of students and resources, and additional updates. And so in the reopening status, and I know this is the hot question of the day, when we reach 28 consecutive days below the moderate, you know, our dial, we will, and we're going to communicate in either today or Monday with families, we will dial up our services to stage 2.1 in hybrid, and we'll outline what that looks like in an email that will go out to families again, either this afternoon or first thing Monday. So with that being said, some really good progress. I am really excited to report that we're making great progress as a community. And we're excited to open up, you know, even more services on our campuses. With that being said, I think there's a little bit of a false narrative in our community that learning doesn't happen within our buildings. And I have 3 individuals here today to kind of outline some of that work that's either in the works or has already started on our campuses. So with that being said, it's a pleasure to introduce Lisa Joslin, which is the interim director of our CTE programs. Lisa. Lisa, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Superintendent Brewer for allowing us to share some of the opportunities that we're providing for kids during these crazy times. I'm going to make it short because I want the experts, the 2 instructors that are here, to speak specifically about their their activities, but we couldn't all be here, so there's some other activities I'd like to share. First, in the health pathway, Betsy Wharton has put together an activity that's referred to as an emergency response drill, and this will be outside. The students will be simulating a disaster drill, and they will be practicing their first aid and their rescue and their evacuation techniques, working right alongside with community members. The Clallam Search and Rescue has assisted with this in the past, and they've agreed to assist with it again. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about this is that it's going to lead towards a certification for the students if they choose to. So there's a certification called CERT, actually, and it's the Community Emergency Response Team certification. And so students that participate this will be their first step on the way to earning that certification. So that's in the health pathway. And then our NJROTC instructors have also been working at getting the students back on campus. And a big part of NJROTC programs is the leadership and the different teams and the teamwork and the self-discipline that they display and earn while they're working with those teams. And they also compete. And we've had a very successful NJROTC program, and those students are real anxious about working again with their teams. And so they have put together a proposal, and it's been approved for the air rifle team to come in. So they're going to come in and continue to hopefully move forward with the success they have in the past years. And then we have we have a couple actually that are pending in the T&I department. The Fine Woods has put together a proposal. Actually, the Fine Wood hasn't put together the proposal. Mr. Tim Branham, the instructor, has. He had some students last semester that had worked to design tables. They had picked out the wood. They had designed their etchings that were going to go on the tables, and then school was closed. So he is going to bring those students back so they can come in and finish those projects that they started in March or second semester. A lot of them had intentions of giving those tables to family members for presents, so they're excited about coming back in. We have two other proposals that are pending, one for machine shop and one for auto body. And again, in both of those programs, they just want to bring kids in first to finish the projects that they didn't get to start or they didn't get to finish last semester. And for instance, in the auto body, a lot of times they're working on projects for community members and getting those industry skills. And obviously those projects were put on hold. So our goal is to get these kids back and finish up these projects. With that being said, we are fortunate to have Mr. Patrick McGinnis here, and he is going to explain to you about how he's going to put on a drama production. So thank you again.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick McGinnis. I teach video production, video game design, theater technology, and broadcast journalism here at Port Angeles High School. See our little studio in the background. But one of the super exciting things that we're working on currently is we've been able to move forward with the proposal I made over the summer to basically what Lisa alluded to, put on a fall production, play. And of course, there's a lot of restrictions and safety measures in place, from people entering into the building all the way to the social distancing and masking of people who are participating in it. But this is super exciting because it really gives an opportunity with my programs, especially the hands-on components of any CTE program. A lot of the work, especially in theater technology, as we go through the different elements of putting on a live performance, whether that's a concert or a play, I like to have the students working and looking at each element with the kind of grand design in mind, like it's going to be building towards something. So having a semester play, which traditionally the theater technology, that's where all of our, work in props, work in makeup, work in lights, and work in sound kind of all culminates in this production that they get hands-on experience teching. But then also I'm the advisor for the Thespian Society, which is the drama club, ASB drama club up here on campus. And so those two programs work really closely with each other. And, you know, in the spring, we had a huge production of Alice in Wonderland get canceled in the middle of it, you know, and the students were about a month and a half into rehearsals. And I just felt so bad for them for having to cancel the show, and they didn't get a chance to perform. So I was really searching my brain of how we can, you know, have safety measures in place and pick a production that has limited people on stage to allow for social distancing and different, you know, unique requirements like that. And we found one. We're actually going to be doing a stage adaptation of the 1980s classic Never Ending Story. And that allows us some creative using of masking certain characters. And again, the play kind of develops in a way where only certain people are on stage at once. So it allows for us to really limit the people inside the building. So, and then also, in addition, the special thing about the show is there will be no live audience inside the theater. It's going to utilize technology and a system that we've been developing in my video production program, where over the past couple of years, we have live streamed the home sporting games, and not just live streamed them, but have a pretty sophisticated setup with 3 cameras, switchboard, inlaid graphics, and a bunch of different things. So we're taking that system, since you know, we're not currently doing home sporting games, we're kind of taking that system and those students and involving them and kind of putting on a production that hopefully will end up looking something like, if any of you caught like Hamilton on Disney Plus over the summer, but like a multi-camera live performance. But that's the key, it's live. It will still run just like a stage performance from the auditorium. And it will have 3 cameras on it that we'll be switching between. And each night it will be a different, you know, a new performance. So it's kind of a experiment in a way, but the technology has been around for a while, but it's super exciting because it feels like we're really on like a leading edge, a front wave of kind of how theater is adjusting to the whole COVID situation around the country. And we're kind of on the front wave of that. But like I said, again, we have so many, like when the students are auditioning, they're only coming in groups of 5 or less. So there's no more than 5 students on campus at a time or in the building at a time. When they come in, there's like strict procedures of how they have to, you know, they get a thermometer, no touch forehead thermometer. It's kind of similar to what, you know, we experience when going into a hospital. All of those steps are in place. And we have a huge amount of community support. So I've been able to really lean on some people from the community to come in and help make sure that these systems are in place to make it as safe, you know, and strictly adhere to the DOH's guidelines for student and staff safety on it. But it's super exciting. That show is actually going to be, we're kind of starting slowly the process, but that performances will be in mid-November. For 6 runs, just like kind of traditionally what we've done in the past. But yeah, instead of having an audience inside the building, it will be live streamed online. So it's going to be pretty cool. But that's just one of the things that the CTE department kind of has going on. So I'm super excited to kind of move forward and get to see some students again and get them back in a hands-on environment. And I know that the students are super excited about that just from their feedback into it. We already have more people, you know, pledging participation, whether it's auditioning to be in the show or signing up to be technical crew members. Has been some of the most participation that we've had, at least since I've been involved in the program. So it's super exciting, and I'm super thankful to the district to allow us to go on, and you know, county and everybody to allow us to go on and explore this with the students. Really exciting.
Thank you very much. Sounds very exciting. And Patrick was quick with regards to his proposal to be accepted. And I think before even school started, he had submitted his proposal. He kind of led the charge to opening up the opportunities for students at the high school, and I certainly appreciate that. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your commitment, and we look forward to that event in the very near future. Next up, Nathan Rodol will talk to us about orchestra.
Hi, I'm Nathan Rodol, and I teach orchestra at the high school. I also teach the 8th grade orchestra at Stevens Middle School. And in addition to my capacity as an orchestra teacher, I also represent our music team at the high school as a department chair this year. And before I dig into the ways that we'll be presenting performances and other ways that we're engaging students this year, I just want to celebrate some of the new teachers in the music department. I think when I came in last year, we had maybe had one new music teacher be hired in recent history, at least at the secondary level. And we've had some awesome stellar teachers retire last year. And so I just want to talk about their replacements for a little bit. We have Jarrett Hansen as a band teacher at the high school. He comes to us from Central Washington University, then University of the Pacific, and was teaching down in California for some time before he joined us here in Port Angeles, but is originally from Chimacum. So he's someone who really understands our region and kind of the small town way of being. And I think he's going to do his best to serve our students and our community. And in choir at the high school, we have Vicki Helwick, who has been teaching in the area for some time and has put 2 children through our schools. And I think she's going to do great to serve our community because she is a part of it. And like Patrick was mentioning, our community is such a huge part of what we do here at the school. And we are so grateful for the support that we receive, and the families that we serve are so willing to help us and provide insight, especially for someone like me that this is my 2nd year in the district, and I come here from Puyallup, which is a much different place than Port Angeles, and to be able to rely on families and past orchestra families and my predecessors, both Dr. James Ray and Mr. Ron Jones, to help me understand how to best serve this community. So just to start out, thanking our community and those teachers who are going to help me make this a great year for all of our music students. And to give you a quick overview of the ways that we're going to continue to provide excellent experiences in music performance for students, our elementary teachers have been meeting really regularly to discover ways that they can continue to engage students in music. And I just received an email last night from some of the work that our elementary music teachers have been doing to engage students virtually. And it's really promising. And at every level, I think we're looking at what is possible for students and just reevaluating as we get down the road. So when we started in this process, we were thinking about how could we engage students virtually. And one of the solutions we came up with, at least for orchestra, is there's a program called Upbeat Music that takes sort of the beauty of a medium like Google Meets or Zoom, where we can meet virtually, and applies a little bit of Disney Studio magic to allow us to record together distantly. So that's, we're going to do a trial run with the chamber orchestra students before we roll that out to everyone, just so that we make sure that we've got something that really works for all students before we introduce it to everyone. And we will share those performances once we have them. But we are excited to announce, along with Lisa and Patrick, that we're going to put students in cohorts of 4 or 5. Orchestra's beautiful in the way that we have 5 parts maximum, usually, of 2 violins, viola, cello, and bass. So we can have each part represented and record a performance, and then I can take those recordings, and hopefully with the help of Patrick, we can get some really high quality video and audio recording. And I'll piece together using technology that I have here in my office to represent all of the students who perform in a virtual performance for you all. But it's really important that for our music students that they have at least some opportunity to collaborate with each other. So this opportunity to meet in person is really exciting for me, because I feel that while music is exciting and it really speaks to a deeper piece within ourselves, Many of our students are in our classes because it's the only class that they've been able to have with their best friend or a cohort of kids that they went to elementary school with. When they're in different English classes now or different math classes, they can still show up to orchestra and see the familiar faces that they've been seeing since fourth grade or earlier. And so allowing us to put together these cohorts of students can maintain that connection that for many is the reason that they not only come to orchestra every day, but stay in orchestra through the medium that music provides. And hopefully, if things continue to trend to the positive for the status of the COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps the 5 can be a different number in the future. But as I started this conversation, it's looking at what is safe, what is possible, and just moving incrementally. And I've been very blessed, as I said, to have communications with my predecessors. And one of my first conversations with Dr. James Ray, who hopefully those of you listening are familiar with, about how we would deal with this and what performances would look like. And this is, back in March, because the schools were closed and events started being canceled the weekend that we had our yearly trip to Western Washington University for the competition that Port Angeles High School has participated in. I think at least for the last 30 years. It used to be a different contest down in Oregon, but it was a big letdown for me and for the students. And so I wanted to reach out to James and find out what would you do here? What are we looking at? How can we keep the kids engaged in music, even if we can't meet in person? And the first thing that he said was, at some point, you will meet in person again. And when that next rehearsal or concert happens, you want every student to be there. You don't want to be one student down. And so I am very appreciative that we've been so cautious so that when we do meet in person again, that we're not missing anyone. I would hate for us to have jumped the gun and had some terrible event where I'm now dealing with a sick child or the absence of a child that I care for and want in my classroom and look forward to seeing what they produce as a young adult and an adult into their lives. One of the great things about our orchestra program here at Port Angeles High School is the many number of students who have gone on to become professional musicians, and to invite them back to play with us is such a joy. So I'm so glad that we have been so cautious and that we're looking forward to providing some limited opportunities together in small groups. So we've done the work to get here, and hopefully we continue to do the work to get to even further opportunities. And likewise, the band will do similar performances. I believe Mr. Hansen plans on starting with his percussion ensemble. They have the least risk since they're not blowing air through an instrument. And we've got some creative solutions for the clarinets and flutes and brass players. There's been some great science about covers around the bells of instruments. You can just take 2 layers of pantyhose and that diffuses aerosols very well. You can buy some professional ones online, but from what I understand, going to the dollar store and buying pantyhose works just as well. And our choir, I anticipate that will need to happen outside when Ms. Helwick puts together her proposals for performances. But from the science that I have looked at is so long as we are outside and distance plenty, that could be possible, but always with caution. It gets old hearing it out of an abundance of caution. At the beginning of most of the emails we have read the last couple of months. But at the forefront of everything that we're doing to engage children throughout the school district is safety. So when we do have these performances, we will go through the same procedures that Patrick is talking about, so that while providing these excellent experiences in music, as we have always done, that we can also keep safety a priority. I'm so excited that I get to be part of this tradition here in Port Angeles. Before I sign off, it's just tremendous, the things that this small town has done to change student lives through the power of music. And I hope to continue to do the same within the circumstances that we have to operate under. So thank you so much, Superintendent Brewer, for inviting me. and I hope I can answer any questions that come up.
Thank you very much. So there is a small sample of the good work that's happening in our CTE program and music department up at Port Angeles High School. The takeaway that I would like the community to hear today is the work continues. Our staff at all levels, K through 12, are working very, very hard to make sure that our students have great opportunities. We have a unfortunate circumstance now. I mean, we would all strive to be back in a brick and mortar schooling, but I can attest to the community that our staff is working double time to give students the opportunities that they deserve to make this a meaningful year. And so this is just a small representation of that work that's happening K-12. So with that being said, I want to now open up the opportunity for questions of myself or any guests that we have today.
All right, so we have nothing currently pending in the queue. So again, if you have a question or you'd like to make a comment, please just write your name in the Q&A box and we will happily call on you. Until then, it is Marty's favorite time, quiz time. Is what we do to fill the silence. Okay, are you ready?
I may pass it to a guest.
Okay, well, okay. So the first question is, did you, Marty Brewer, make a New Year's resolution?
I did not.
You did
Not
not.
this year, but we have a New Year's tradition. Every year we eat cabbage on New Year's Day, which is in my family, the culture of my family indicates that you will you will have money during the rest of the calendar year if you eat cabbage on New Year's Day.
Nice.
Don't ask me where that came from, but you know, that's just a family tradition and something that we go out of our way to eat a form of cabbage, which is probably my least favorite food in the world, but I do eat it every year on New Year's Day, once a year.
Great. And with that cabbage talk, we have a question. So
Good.
Melissa Briggs, I'm going to unmute here and enable your. Are you there, Melissa?
Yep, I am.
All right,
I just have a quick question. Could you maybe go into further detail about the phases, how we move through them? Do we jump phases? Do we have to move them conceptually through them? But I mean, obviously we're positive and hoping we're moving that direction. So if you could touch on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen. So this outlines the phases of the school district, and you know we have stage 1, which is where we're at. You have stage 2, which is hybrid, and stage 3, traditional brick and mortar, 5 days a week. Our hybrid 4 stages, which is hybrid step 1 is K2. Students on an AB schedule. And I want to reference, you know, why that would be necessary. An AB schedule in most, if not all grades, would continue to be necessary as the 6-foot social distance requirement gives us the capacity in a classroom of somewhere between 12 and 15 students, depending on the size of the classroom. So, you know, our numbers at the county level are looking great, but there's still going to be a need for social distancing as just the square footage of our classrooms are not capable of a capacity of 20 or 25 students per class. And so stage 2.1 is K2, stage 2.2 is 3 through 6, stage 2.3 is grade 7 and 9, and stage 2.4 is all students on an AB schedule. So more specifically to your question, you know, our county numbers do look outstanding. And, you know, I'm going to take us back to the decision-making tree. And, you know, we are currently in the low rate, you know, for, I think it's 5 or 6 consecutive days. And we have 18 days in the moderate. It does reference, and I know that there's a sense of desire from our school community to launch into returning multiple grades back to school, you know, in a short period of time. And I am very cautious around that approach because of the number of provision, or the number of requirements that are imposed in our school district. It's very, very different. You know, the 6-foot social distance, the masking requirement, the attestation. And when I say the attestation, every student has to attest that he or she or their family is not sick, you know, to come to school on that day. Well, we have 3,500 students, so we have to manage attestation when we have a full return of 3,500 attestations on a daily basis. We have 500 employees that need to attest every day that they are not sick. We have to look at the protocols as it relates to lunch procedure and recess procedure and transitioning between classes and hallways. And so school will look and feel very, very different. And so there's this desire, and I have the same desire to, you know, the numbers look good and we need to jump back into school and get back to it today. I want to be cautious about that, though, because if you look at the decision-making tree that I have up on the slide at this point in time, it does reference that. I'm looking for this spot. Yeah, right here in the moderate, it says, over time, consider adding hybrid in-person learning for middle and high school students if limited COVID transmission occurs in the schools. And that's an important statement for me, you know, because we're really looking two parts here, the county number and how well we're carrying out all of those safety protocols within our schools. And I believe if we push too hard, too fast, that we could put ourselves in a situation where we actually regress. And I do not want to do that. And so I'm really working with our school system, and I want to work with the community around transitioning in back into school, kind of like in a rolling start and slowly, so that we don't bring back more students than we have the ability to manage through all of the processes and logistics that have to be done on a daily basis to make sure that we're doing that safely for all involved. And so our plan, I'm going to go back to our plan here, is really about rolling students back onto campus. And so we don't view, you know, the hybrid 2.1, which is right here, as all K2 students returning on the same day. That is something that I just don't think we have the administrative support and the supports to make that happen. So we are going to start with, when we highlight the date to start, we're going to start with kindergarten. And we're going to transition our kindergartners back into classes and give us some time. And I know the community wants to hear how much time. And I understand that. I would be asking the same question that the community is asking. But I'm very cautious about putting a timeline on that because I just simply don't know. And as a superintendent, that's tough for me to say. I do not know how long it will take. Will it take a day? Will it take 3 days? Will it take a week? Will it take 2 weeks? I do not know how long it will take for us to take our kindergartner students back on campus and work through all the logistics that I just referenced. Assuring social distancing, masking, attestation. How do we eat lunch? How do we go to recess? The list is exhausting, and things that we have taken for granted in the past around students using the restroom, we can't anymore. We have to have a clear procedure so that we don't end up with 6 students in the restroom together, where, you know, it could put our continued progression of bringing more and more students back on campus at risk. So there's just lots of considerations here. And, you know, the commitment of the school district, the board, myself, and all of the employees, we will be very intentional and, practice appropriate safety measures to do this and do it right. Because if we want to get to where everybody wants to be, and I want to be as well, to stage 2.4 and beyond, where all students are back in a hybrid, we simply can't afford community transmission within our schools. If we bring back a grade and we have community transmission within one of our schools, the county official will close our schools. And that would be catastrophic in my view. So I want to take slow, intentional steps here to make sure that as we bring more and more students back on campus, we have the appropriate safety measures in place to avoid a potential community transmission within our schools. And I believe that with our safeguards that we are implementing, we can do that. COVID will continue to be in our community, for at least the duration of this school year, but with the appropriate safeguards, we can do this safely and avoid community transmission. And that's the ultimate goal here. So once again, I'm asking, for community patience around as we start progressing through the steps and progressing through the grades. It will seem, by some perspective, rather slow, but it's done as an intentional measure to avoid community transmission within our schools and build capacity of not only, students, but our staff to be able to carry out these measures correctly. So that's a really long version of the answer, and I apologize for that, but I think that's an important statement. Melissa, did that give you what you needed today?
Okay, Marty, I believe she's there, but I don't know if
Okay.
it's technical difficulties.
Nope, I'm
Oh,
back.
there you are. There you are.
I wanted to let you know that I appreciated your perspective because as a kindergarten parent, we are the first ones phased in on our hybrid schedule, which of course is exciting because we get 2 days with our teacher. I don't want to either rush through those phases. I feel like that is a very perceptive concern of yours, and I want to let you know we share that. Obviously, as a high school parent may feel differently because they have to wait longer to phase in, but I appreciate the fact that we're not going to skip phases, that all of a sudden my kindergartner's AB schedule and now they're 5 days a week, 2 days later. Less disruption, of course, is better for all age factors. So I think you have a lot of community support on not rushing things. None of us want to go backwards.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Melissa. I appreciate it. There is extreme pressure in our community to, to go in both directions. There's no simple answer to, this puzzle that we're trying to put together, but I appreciate your perspective, and it's going to be difficult. And the district will have to do our due diligence to communicate at a very high level to make sure folks understand, what we're trying to accomplish. Our end game here is to get all of our students back on campus in an AB model in the future. And once we get there, then get all of our students back in a traditional setting. And so appreciate your support. Thank you very much, Melissa.
So Alicia had a similar question, I believe. She does not have a mic. So Alicia, if you had a further question or if Superintendent Brewer did not answer it fully, please type that in the Q&A. Next question is from, I believe you pronounce your name, Tamara. I am now enabling your mic.
Hi, I have a slightly different perspective. I have one child in grade 1 and 2 in high school. My youngest child attended Seaview for a short period of time, and then we returned him into the brick and mortar school. If and when you do reopen, I strongly believe there are going to be a lot of parents that are in the same situation that I was and switch back over. What sort of plan do you have in place for the teachers?
Yeah. So we're adjusting our staffing based on our enrollment trend. And this year we've seen a reduction in student enrollment across the district. And so one area that we have not adjusted our staffing, even though the class sizes don't justify that, is K2. And so we've maintained the kindergarten through second grade staffing levels, meaning student to teacher ratio, in anticipation of families making the choice from CVU back to brick and mortar and or from homeschool back to brick and mortar, or I'm sorry, hybrid. So that's what we've done in anticipation of students returning back to their neighborhood schools. And we've maintained our level of commitment as it relates to staffing for K through 2 classes.
Will there be any class size restrictions on the K-2 side?
Yeah. You know, we historically for K2 try to staff our classes somewhere between 17 and 21 students per class. And then on the hybrid, you would take that number, let's say 18, and divide it by 2. You'd have 9 in each section, A and B. And so in normal circumstances, 17 to 21 class ratio for K2. In a hybrid, you're going to have about half of that, so 8 to 10 students in any given classroom for that hybrid model implementation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have nothing further in the queue at this time. Again, if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question of any of our panelists, please write your name and I will happily call on you. Otherwise, the quizzing will continue. Here we go. Who established the New Year's Day holiday? Do not Google. I do not want to hear any clicking.
Okay, Jen, you can ask. I answered the last question. You can ask one of our guests.
Do we have any volunteers? Anybody
Who knows
want to?
it?
No, we got shoulder shrugging from Patrick.
Uh-huh.
No, nobody knows. Okay, so it is said, although I do not have confirmation, Julius Caesar. We're going back a while. I know.
Okay.
I know.
That was going to be my guess. I should have said it.
Wow. Nice job, Nathan.
All right,
Well,
still looking. Oh, go ahead. Was somebody going to say something?
Well, I think it was the Caesar that started the Julian calendar that is somewhat related to what we use now. So that would make sense with the year beginning after the holiday that they called Saturnalia that took place in December.
Yes, I'm going to go with that. That sounds
I'm full of
amazing.
useless knowledge anytime you need it.
Well, since you were just speaking, Nathan, Ms. Carrie Sanford, I'm going to go ahead, Carrie, and read a part of this for you. And then if you still want to ask another question, please do. So, Nathan, Carrie said that she missed part of what you were saying, and she heard about choir doing the singing outside, but she would like to know what the students in choir are doing now. If you could address that, please.
I'm not totally privy to what Ms. Helwick is doing with her classes. I know she's working from home right now. She's just recovered from knee surgery, but we've met as a music team several times and talked about what our options are and what if there are any curriculums that we need to investigate for our students to keep teaching music in this remote situation. I'd be happy to check in with Vicki and see what she's up to if we need a more specific response. I can follow up with an email or something like that.
Thank you, Nathan. That would be great. So we have another question. However, they do not have a mic, so I will be asking it. What is the plan for the New York orchestra trip? Do we know that yet, Nathan?
I've had a number of meetings with Michelle Olson, our new assistant superintendent, and we've been discussing how to make the right statement, and we've been working with Superintendent Brewer, and we'll be putting out a statement very soon so that we can solidify some solidarity, to say the same word twice, regarding what's going to happen with the Carnegie Hall trip. I will say it's probably unlikely that Carnegie Hall will even be open in April, just to give you something. But we want to make sure that our statement is worded the right way before we make an official announcement.
Thank you, Nathan. Again, if you have any other questions or comments, please just shoot us a quick message on the Q&A and we'll happily enable your mic. Until then, though, Amanda Sanders, who comes to these things every week, thank you, Amanda, she doesn't have a mic, but she has a quiz question. So while we're waiting for another question, here you go. And I think everybody should answer this. Amanda would like to know, when was the last day that you did not check your email for a whole day?
Wow.
Which email? School or personal email?
Let's go with work. She didn't say that, but I'm going to go with work email.
Well, I've been teaching 6 years now, so probably 7 years ago.
And I don't even want to say how long I've been in education, but I cannot remember the last time that I did not check my email. It must have been if I had no technology available or something.
My wife is actually pregnant, so when we go into the doctor's office, she makes sure, look, put that phone away, get off of the email. This is the priority. So there are occasional days that I do get to escape email and just kind of focus on the present, but it's not too often.
Same here. It's hard to remember, like last time I didn't check my email during the course of a day. Email, I've always said, is, it's a great asset. It increases our communications in a business organization similar to the school district, but it can also be a curse. Back when I started to teach, 32 years ago, Lisa, email was not so prevalent. And so when you went home, you had an opportunity to check out and come back the next day. So, so there's a blessing to it. There's connectivity and you're always connected to your work, but the other side of it is a little bit of, challenging to stay off of email and stay off of that work mode that everybody needs from time to time. So.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Amanda. Again, nothing pending yet in the queue. So 2 things. First, Nathan, there was a request that you play the instrument that is behind you as we close the meeting. So in a few minutes, I'll give you a little minute to prepare, but that was a request. Also, Marty, there was a question, or really if you could recap what we sent out yesterday to some of the news media about WAVE and getting access to internet. People are wanting a little bit more information, and also who they would contact if they are needing that assistance.
Yeah. So yesterday we did a press release and announced between Port Angeles School District and Port Angeles Education Foundation, a cooperative effort to meet the broadband needs of families that currently do not have internet. And so Port Angeles Education Foundation donated $80,000 yesterday. The district didn't quite match that, but put into that budget line item another $60,000 to help provide either wave cable to homes that do not currently have internet access, or we have about 100 MiFi Verizon hotspots that are prepaid for a year, that an individual that falls outside of the wave delivery address jurisdiction could utilize. So a really neat opportunity or commitment by Port Angeles Education Foundation and the school district. We had to make a pretty quick pivot. We had been planning all summer long we knew we were going to be in a distance learning model / hybrid model in some capacity. And so we've made the commitment as a district to invest in Chromebooks. And we did so back in June, July. And so, but that's only one part of the issue around connectivity for families. And when we were forced to move to a distance learning model mid-August by way of our county numbers, at that point in time, the district and PAEF came together to problem solve how we could handle this. if students would not be on campus every week. And so, we got creative, came up with creative solutions, and I, for one, am very proud of the measure and the number of individuals it took to carry out this work. So if you are in need of, and it's specific to families that don't currently have internet capabilities within their home environment or their living condition, the connection would be to reach out to Becca Larson, which is the school navigator. She and her team are rolling out those resources as we speak, and she would be able to connect you to the appropriate device and or service.
Thank you for that. We do have another question. It's from Alicia, and she does not have a mic, so I will be reading it. She states 2 local private schools have started classes with all grades full days. No COVID levels have increased. Could their successful reentry to school be helpful in speeding our school district through the stages of reentry?
I hesitate to speak on that. I don't know the logistics around the private schools, around their current measures and or their class sizes. And so I do know that Olympic Christian is currently operating, at least most, I think some or most of their grades 5 days a week. And a successful effort on their part would most certainly, help our case as a county with regards to keeping transmission rates down. And we do meet with the county official, with Olympic Christian and all of the public schools in the county every other week to have conversations and share success stories and share challenges and hear direction from our county health official. So most certainly we are paying attention to their success rate. Again, I don't know all the logistics of how they're carrying out that work, but any school to carry out successful in-person learning helps all of us. And so I'm really happy that they're doing so very well. The private schools, and I'll reference once again the decision tree. So the decision tree, private schools operate under a different, they do and they don't operate under the guidance of the health official. But our insurance carrier or public school systems and insurance carriers in the state of Washington, when the health department, the Department of Health, comes out with a recommendation for distance learning, it's as simple as our insurance carrier will not provide liability coverage if we operate outside that recommendation. So I do not know the jurisdiction or the guidance of private schools, and that's obviously different. But for us, a recommendation for the Department of Health becomes a mandate and a requirement. And so, this document, this guiding document, is something that our school system and every school system in the state of Washington that's public in nature has to abide by. So, but the answer is absolutely yes. I'm really excited to see their success rate, because if they can do it, we can do it as well.
Thank you. She did want to share that she believes classes are under 20 and most are at 15, just for
Awesome.
that information.
That's really good news.
Yes. I also want to mention that next week we're going to have Athletic Director Dwayne Johnson here during our virtual luncheon chat. And there is nothing further. There's nothing further in the queue. So I, for one, vote for Nathan to play.
And it's the harpsichord in the back, yeah?
You know what? They weren't specific. I see you have numerous instruments, so I say player's choice.
Oh, well, the harpsichord was just donated to us from back in the spring from a Lutheran church in Tacoma. A colleague of mine works there, and it just wasn't being used, and it was really important to him that students have an opportunity to learn about early music, harpsichord being an instrument of the early Baroque period. So donated us this, I evaluated it like $20,000 harpsichord, and it's sitting in the office for now, and as soon as we can get some students to play it, we will. But I'd be happy to play a few seconds. So rather than like a piano that hits the string, it plucks the strings, kind of like a guitar. And that's what it sounds like.
Impressive. Very nice. Well, thank you for that, Nathan. Appreciate it. Thank you to the community for coming out once again. We certainly appreciate it. And hopefully you can carry this message, out to the folks that you network with of the great work that our staff and our district continue to do, and the hope that we will get to the point where, all of our students are back on campus learning, in a brick and mortar setting. That is our goal and vision. I encourage you to come back again next week, and we'll talk more specifically about WIAA and interscholastic activities with Dwayne Johnson. And with that being said, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.